Aljamain Sterling launched a strong criticism at Dana White and the UFC after the promotion decided to book a rematch between Alex Volkanovski and Diego Lopez, claiming the decision completely bypassed him and the other legitimate contenders in the division. According to Sterling, the UFC rose to number 1 because it always prioritized letting the best fight the best, and lately the matchmaking has started to feel more like a popularity contest than a merit-based system. He emphasized that this wasn't only about himself or his own title campaign. He believes the matchup simply does not make sense. After earning a dominant win against Brian Ortega, he expected competitive logic to matter, yet he feels the sport is drifting from that standard. In his view, there are multiple contenders who have been consistently active, collecting meaningful victories, while Diego Lopez is being rewarded more on momentum and hype rather than proven accomplishments. Lopez did not take the criticism quietly. He fired back on social media, stating bluntly that fighters who complain online are exactly the ones who don't get title shots. He argued that he earned the opportunity by staying active, taking risks and constantly looking for big challenges. Lopez contrasted his momentum with Movsar Evloev's long stretches of inactivity and with Laurent Murphy's slower schedule over the past year. In his opinion, activity should matter, risk-taking should matter, and the fans should recognize when a fighter brings excitement and results. Lopez made it clear that he believes he is the one creating headlines inside the octagon, not outside of it. The irony wasn't lost on the MMA world. Just a few months ago in September, Lopez publicly stated that Murphy should be the next challenger for Volkanovski. But now that the position is his, the entire division is split in arguing over who deserves the spot. Sterling acknowledged that he understands the business strategy behind the move. The UFC wants stars who can represent Mexico and Brazil and expand the market. Still, he questioned what the actual criteria for earning a title shot has become. He explained that after dedicating more than a decade to the sport, merit used to mean something. The UFC used to truly stand for the best fighting the best, but now it feels like popularity and highlights are becoming the deciding factor. He added that he understands the business side, but from the perspective of an athlete who is genuinely competing for greatness, the shift is frustrating, especially when the first fight between Volkanovski and Lopez wasn't even close. UFC insiders just dropped major news about the upcoming White House card, and the MMA world is buzzing. Mike Bohn appeared on Josh Thompson's podcast and revealed some interesting behind-the-scenes discussions. According to him, the UFC is considering a super exclusive event with possibly only 5 total fights. The idea is to make every matchup feel massive, with no filler bouts, only high-stakes, high-profile clashes from start to finish. Bohn even mentioned that Iliad Topuria's name has floated around as a potential addition to the lineup, especially since El Matador is targeting a return around mid-2026. While nothing is confirmed, it shows the level of star power UFC executives want for this card. Meanwhile, the lightweight division continues to dominate headlines. Shortly after Justin Gaethje vs. Paddy Pimblett was officially booked for the interim title, Gaethje reacted publicly on Instagram, and he sounds more motivated than ever. Despite pushback from fans who believe Paddy hasn't earned the shot, Gaethje called Pimblett the perfect dance partner. He emphasized that the timing, the spotlight, and the launch of the new UFC Paramount era make this the ideal moment to remind the world why he remains one of the most violent and exciting fighters of his generation. Even critics admit the fight is guaranteed entertainment, though frustration is growing that merit-based rankings have been ignored, leaving Arman Tsarukyan potentially sidelined for a full year without a title opportunity. As for the main event, the UFC is still heavily targeting Conor McGregor vs. Michael Chandler. If McGregor becomes unavailable or unreliable, the promotion could pivot fast. Bones suggested there is a realistic scenario where the UFC calls Jon Jones to step in, depending on his availability and willingness. He also noted the promotion is unlikely to load the card with multiple championship bouts. The expectation is quality over quantity. If Conor headlines and Kayla Harrison gets a title fight on the same card, that alone would satisfy the UFC's goals. The priority is return on investment. Conor McGregor sells the same seats and the same attention that Jon Jones or any other superstar does, which is why the UFC will be strategic rather than excessive. If the card delivers a handful of huge fights with the right names, the UFC will consider the White House event a major success. Paddy Pimblett has officially broken his silence on the upcoming Justin Gaethje fight, and his message is as bold as ever. In a new UFC Europe promo, Paddy declared that once he beats Gaethje, critics will immediately shift the narrative, claiming Justin was old or past his prime to discredit the win. According to him, the backlash is inevitable, but it won't stop him from proving he belongs at the top of the lightweight division. Pimblett also laid out a clear plan for 2026. First, he intends to win the interim lightweight championship against Gaethje in January. Then, by the middle of the year, he wants to unify the belts against Iliad Topuria. After dealing with Topuria, he plans to face Arman Tsarukyan, promising that Tsarukyan will receive the exact same treatment. In Paddy's words, he is coming for the entire top of the division without hesitation. The new promo has sparked a massive reaction online. Fans who support Paddy are praising his confidence, mindset and willingness to challenge the toughest fighters in the division back-to-back. Many consider this storyline one of the most electrifying narratives of the year. However, the backlash remains intense. Critics, including Aljamain Sterling, have called the booking a joke and have even suggested fans boycott the fight. They argue that Paddy has not earned his ranking or his title opportunity and that his rise has more to do with popularity than merit. Regardless of the criticism, Pimblett has fully embraced the chaos, feeding off the attention rather than avoiding it. Paddy also highlighted the personal sacrifices he is making leading up to January, noting that this will be the earliest fight of his career and that it will cost him his Christmas dinner and part of his birthday celebration. Still, he insists it will all be worth it when he lifts the title over his head and becomes world champion. He repeated that 2026 will be the biggest year of his life and that fans will see the real version of him once the championship rounds begin. In his closing remarks, Paddy stated that he is coming for the interim title, then for the undisputed title against Topuria, and afterward for Tsarukyan if Arman keeps his ranking. Whether fans love him or despise him, Pimblett isn't holding back, and his ambitions have become the center of the MMA conversation. Joe Rogan has shared his thoughts on the upcoming boxing match between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua, and he made it clear that he does not have much confidence in Jake's chances. When asked directly what he thinks about Jake Paul stepping into the ring with Joshua, Rogan responded with hesitation before describing the matchup as one of the wildest propositions he has ever seen. He pointed out that Jake Paul is moving from what looked like a light sparring match against 58-year-old Mike Tyson to facing one of the most devastating knockout punchers in the heavyweight division. Rogan emphasized the extreme gap in experience, power, and danger between the two opponents. He suggested that anyone skeptical of Joshua's ability should rewatch his fight against Francis Ngannou to understand how lethal Joshua becomes when facing someone who isn't operating at his level. According to Rogan, that performance demonstrated clearly what Joshua is capable of when he finds his rhythm and feels confident. He described Joshua as a physical powerhouse who can end a fight instantly with a single clean shot. Rogan acknowledged that Joshua is not invincible. He mentioned Alexander Usyk's victories over Joshua, noting that Usyk defeated him twice and is widely regarded as one of the most technically gifted heavyweight boxers of all time. Rogan even suggested that Usyk might be the greatest heavyweight ever or possibly one of the greatest boxers across any weight class. He also referenced the stunning upset delivered by Andy Ruiz in their first encounter, where Ruiz caught Joshua, dropped him multiple times, and secured a knockout in what remains one of boxing's most shocking results in recent memory. Rogan argued that neither of those opponents diminishes Joshua's threat level. Both Ruiz and Usyk are extraordinarily high-level talents. Returning to Jake Paul, Rogan explained that moving from a bout with a retired 58-year-old legend to a prime heavyweight knockout artist is not a natural progression. He believes that Jake has made improvements as a boxer and deserves acknowledgement for stepping in against real professional athletes, but he warned that Anthony Joshua is on an entirely different planet in size, speed, power, and elite experience. According to Rogan, if Jake gets clipped cleanly, the fight could be over instantly. In closing, Rogan described the matchup as thrilling from a spectacle standpoint, but he does not see a realistic path where Jake Paul survives a prime Anthony Joshua unless Joshua makes catastrophic mistakes. For Rogan, this matchup is not about rivalry or hype. It is a harsh test of physical reality. Renato Moicano has officially responded to Dan Hooker's recent call-out, and his reaction mixes humor with honesty. Hooker claimed that both he and Moicano suck, so they might as well fight each other next. Moicano said he understood the joke and found the call-out entertaining, but he also believes the UFC won't make that matchup anytime soon. Moicano explained that when he heard Hooker's comments, he laughed because of how the call-out was delivered. He recalled Hooker saying that after his fight, Hunter Campbell called him to check if he was okay, and Hooker answered by saying, "Hey, Moicano sucks." Moicano admitted that if he were in Hooker's position, he might have said something similar. He agreed that neither of them deserves to be ranked in the top 5 or top 6 at the moment, and he even acknowledged that Hooker was right when he said they both suck. However, Moicano emphasized that if they both suck, Hooker sucks far more than he does. Moicano broke down why he believes he is the superior fighter. According to him, Hooker has no ground game, lacks knockout power, and doesn't have the wrestling needed to survive against elite contenders. Moicano feels confident that in a matchup between the two, he would expose all of those weaknesses. Despite that confidence, he still suspects that the fight will not happen because of the UFC's current matchmaking priorities. He argued that both he and Hooker are older, established fighters, and the UFC is more likely to use them to elevate rising contenders rather than match them against each other. In his view, the promotion prefers using recognizable veterans to boost the careers of younger prospects who are trying to break into the rankings. That means both he and Hooker are more likely to be paired with up-and-coming names rather than with each other, even if fans would love to see the fight. Moicano added that, from a rankings perspective, Hooker is currently the easiest route for a prospect to break into the top of the lightweight division. Because Moicano also sits inside the top 10, he believes the UFC wants to match Hooker with a rising contender rather than another veteran. He predicted that the promotion is more likely to book Benoit Saint-Denis against Hooker next, suggesting that this is the fight that makes the most sense from the UFC's point of view.